The Sterling Tower was a monument of ambition. Rising over the city skyline with gleaming glass walls, it symbolized wealth, success, and power. Inside its topmost office sat Edward Sterling, the CEO whose name graced the tower. Edward had built his empire on sharp decisions and an iron will. Shareholders praised him, rivals feared him, and employees followed his lead. Yet, behind the polished exterior, he carried a private void. Despite his fortune, he had never found love he could trust. Proposals had come and gone, but he kept his heart locked, unsure whether anyone could truly see him beyond his money. That spring, Edward's company was hosting its annual charity gala. The Sterling Gala was known for grandeur, attracting celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. This year, however, Edward wanted something more than champagne toasts and speeches. He wanted a moment of authenticity. The gala preparations kept him restless. One evening, he left his office to clear his mind and wandered down to the lobby. There, near the decorative grand piano, he spotted Arthur, the janitor. Arthur was in his 60s, silver-haired, humble in appearance, always polite but easily overlooked. On this night, however, Edward noticed him sitting at the piano bench, his hands hovering above the keys, hesitant. "You play?" Edward asked. Arthur flinched, then gave a shy smile. "I used to, sir. Long ago." Edward raised a brow. "Then why don't you?" Arthur lowered his gaze. "Because nobody wants to hear Chopin from a janitor." Edward leaned on the piano, intrigued. "I do. Play something." Arthur shook his head. "No, sir. Not unless there's a reason." Edward smirked. "And what reason would you need?" Arthur met his eyes, his expression steady. "Because music should mean something. I once promised myself that if I ever played Chopin again in front of someone, it would be for the right cause, or the right person." The CEO tilted his head, amused. "So what would convince you?" Arthur hesitated before speaking with quiet conviction. "If you ever tell a woman, 'Play Chopin and I'll marry you,' then I'll play. Because then the music will matter. Chopin is not just sound. It's love, honesty, and truth. Without that, the notes are empty." Edward was caught off guard. A janitor had just told him that Chopin should be a condition for marriage. He almost laughed, but Arthur's sincerity silenced him. "Play Chopin and I'll marry you," Edward repeated softly, rolling the words in his mind. It sounded absurd, yet strangely poetic. Arthur gave a faint smile. "One day, Mr. Sterling, you'll see. Weeks passed. The gala drew closer. On the night of the event, the grand ballroom glowed with chandeliers, and music floated from a professional quartet. Edward stood near the stage, delivering his speech, but his words felt hollow even as applause erupted. When the music resumed, his gaze wandered to the edge of the room, where Clara Williams, the foundation's young director, stood. Clara was unlike anyone Edward had met in years. She was intelligent, passionate about the charity, and fearless in her honesty. She didn't fawn over his status. She challenged him, laughed at him, and treated him like a man, not a fortune. After the dinner, Edward approached her. "You've done well with the foundation," he said. She smiled, her dark eyes warm. "It's not about me. It's about the children. That's what matters." Her simplicity disarmed him. They walked together through the quieter halls of the tower after the event. Passing the lobby, Clara noticed the grand piano. "Do you play?" she asked. Edward chuckled. "No, but I once heard someone say that Chopin should only be played for love." Clara tilted her head curiously. "That's beautiful. Do you believe it?" Edward paused. For the first time, he remembered Arthur's words. "I think I do." Clara sat at the bench, brushing her hand over the polished keys. "My mother taught me a little, long ago. But I've forgotten most." Edward leaned closer, almost whispering. "Then perhaps, I'll make you a promise. Play Chopin, and I'll marry you." Clara laughed, startled by the boldness. "Mr. Sterling, that's a strange proposal." But Edward's eyes were serious. "It's not strange to me. It's truth." Before Clara could reply, another voice interrupted. "Then let her try." They turned. Arthur stood nearby, mop set aside, watching them. Edward felt a strange sense of fate. Clara blinked, surprised. "You play?" Arthur nodded. "I can guide your hands, if you wish. Chopin is not for perfection, it's for the heart." Clara hesitated, then nodded. Arthur sat beside her, showing her the opening of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat. Her fingers were unsteady, but Arthur's hands steadied hers, coaxing out the melody. Slowly, the music grew, fragile yet alive. Edward's chest tightened. The sound filled the lobby, simple yet profound. Clara's laughter softened into concentration, then into something tender. By the time the final notes faded, the world seemed to stand still. Arthur stepped back, silent. Edward took Clara's hand. I meant what I said. Play Chopin and I'll marry you. Tonight you did, and I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Clara stared at him, her eyes wide, then softened into a smile. You're impossible, she whispered. But there was no mockery in her tone, only warmth. News of Edward Sterling's unexpected engagement spread quickly, but he didn't care for the gossip. What mattered was that for the first time in his life, he felt whole. Clara became his partner not only in life but in the foundation, bringing compassion to his empire. And Arthur, he remained at Sterling Tower, still humble, still sweeping floors. But now, he was no longer invisible. He became the quiet guardian of the piano, often playing in the evenings when the halls were empty. Employees paused to listen, feeling the depth of his music. Edward often stood nearby, hand in Clara's, remembering the night it all began. The night a janitor's wisdom had changed everything. Arthur once told him, music should mean something. Now Edward understood. Chopin wasn't just a melody. It was a promise, a confession, a bond. And in the soft glow of the tower lobby, as Arthur's music drifted into the night, Edward Sterling held Clara's hand and knew, his empire would one day fade, but the love born from a Chopin melody would endure forever.